Hi guys, it's been a while since the last video, but this is not a Lisp video. So I think most of my viewers are Lisp enthusiasts. So rest assured, a new Lisp video will be coming out. I have been working on some other things for a while. So this is one of those categories. So let's get started with that caveat that this has nothing to do with the Lisp series. So if you see this background, you might recognize this is a Windows machine, but this is my typical Emacs setup if you have seen my previous videos. So what's going on? I just basically try to set up a Windows machine into a full uh, dev setup for some work. And so I realized obviously Windows very far from Linux. And if you've seen my content before, I'm a long-term Linux user. I've been using for 10 plus years. I have like highly customized configuration, and like the basic Windows is obviously not right. So this video is just me showing you what I've done as a round one of customization of Windows to make it more ideal, suitable for an experienced user. So who is this? What is this for? Who's the target audience? So one is for other Linux users who might want to try to set up Windows, and also targeted towards a beginning Windows user. Maybe there are some tips here that can help. So let's get started. So the first thing is obviously Windows subscription for Linux. Without this, nothing is going to work. So if I just go to my terminal here, you see it's already running. Interestingly, if I just open a new prompt, you have the WSL command, and that gives you it's installed out of the box. That gives you basically different distributions. So you can basically install different distributions because I use normally Fedora. I have basically set that as my default, but you can use any distro, and it's basically like a VM, right? And also I think I can pull up the WSL. I don't know if this is the one. Let's see. So if I run this, it just opens up another shell in my running uh, subsystem for Linux, which is Fedora. So there's just one more terminal window in case that's what you want. But I actually wanted to show you the configuration GUI. Maybe it is called WSL preview. This search is really bad. I don't know what to say, but it is what it is. Uh, I'm pretty sure there was something that I wanted to settings. Okay, yeah. So maybe this is also useful. Basically, you can basically control your VM configuration. Everything is good out of the box. I don't think there's any problem, including stuff like the file system sharing and networking. Everything was pretty good. I have to give them that. The setup was pretty nice. But in case you want to configure something, you can do the settings and then restart your WSL process. So that's it about WSL. So the point is, once you have it in your terminal, you can basically do normally what you do. You have DNF, so I can just do sudo DNF and whatever, and all of those commands work. So it makes absolute sense to do all of your dev work from inside WSL. So for instance, I've installed Emacs, and then I can just open Emacs like this, right? So now what we normally do, and that's the window you see here. So this is basically Emacs running inside WSL. There is a problem in that you can't really access files on the host, right? So you'll have to, so you do have an option of installing stuff on the host. Like I could have still installed Emacs on the host, but because my configuration has been like, it's a very old configuration, there's a lot of things there. I don't know if that will work with Windows, but I was able to get it working immediately with WSL with all my custom configurations and plugins and everything, right? So that's the benefit of Braze. Okay, coming to the next point, the various shells, right? So here when you open, I can always open new shells, but if you see this button here, new tab, and you have this down arrow. If you see here, it actually lists all the different kind of shells that you can start, and it's a bit funny coming from Linux. There are a lot of options here. So command prompt is the default old Windows command prompt. Windows PowerShell is the newer one that we know, but even there is even newer version of PowerShell, which is like 7. So if I open this, this is PowerShell 7.6. I think some application needed me to install this. So what I see here is it's a bit like Fish. You get automatic prompt completion and so on. So it's, if you have to do any work on this, I would recommend going with this latest 7.6 PowerShell instead of the default 5 point series something PowerShell. So, but yeah, you have different options. Probably won't be using this a lot, but that it's there. Okay. So the next thing I want to talk about is packages on the host. Like I mentioned, you do have to install something. For example, right now I'm using OBS on the host because I want to screen capture and do everything properly. And now you have few options here, the equivalent of our Linux package managers like apt and DNF. So I did of Scoop, so I tried it out, but then I later discovered that Winget was actually automatically installed. I don't think I did anything to install Winget; it was already there. And basically, it's pretty much exactly the same as what you think, right? So if I, for instance, search for Vim, so this UI is nice, pretty decent for something in Windows, and you have a bunch of packages from with different names and things and so on. So you have other editors, and you can just install Winget install with the card. So pretty much straightforward. And once you install it, you can start the command from the prompt like this, or you can open it from the start menu, which is access to the Windows key like this, right? This is not great, but okay, it does work sometimes. Okay, with that said, let's go to the next point. Again, I don't expect us to do a lot of things here, but it is useful for the occasional package install that you have to do on chips. So the next thing is a minor point, but I just wanted to show it while we're here on the topic. If you just go to an empty window, so you see here, obviously my desktop icons are not there. There are a lot of desktop icons, and that's its classical Windows look. But that's something that I could just like customize from somewhere. Okay, yeah, here it is. Just in view, show desktop icons. Just click this and basically hide all your desktop icons. Do something similar with the bottom bar. So basically there is settings and you can enable auto hide, and that's what I've done. That already gives you a lot more minimalistic look compared to the standard Windows club. So that's it for cleaning up desktop view, right? So the next thing I want to talk about is auto hotkey. So that's basically uh, very standard. I am sure this is there on Linux also. I have used other equivalent things on Linux like KeyD and SHKBD and things like that. So this is basically a way to customize your the best way to really automate things, keybinds and so on. So I'll tell you why I'm using this, because my standard setup in Emacs or in any editor, because I'm a long-term Vim user, is to switch the number row and the symbol. So basically, if I press 1, I directly get exclamatory mark. I don't have to press shift 1, right? If I press shift 1, I get 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, you see this? So these are all symbols which I can directly get with single clicks. So this is something I've been doing for a long time. So I wanted that immediately. Even my configuration in Emacs is based on this inverted row. So I needed this pretty much immediately. And the only way I could get this is from AutoHotkey. So if you look at the configuration, so this is the basically the file, the AutoHotkey file. It has a certain kind of configuration language as expected. Like, so here basically we are saying one goes to semicolon and then sorry, one goes to exclamation mark and then the reverse come, right? So this is the core logic. Except there was one small caveat, and that caveat was with the key 5, which is a bit weird thing, but percentage is like a symbol, and you can't really use percentage in the command here. So if you see here, this part is okay, but to actually send percentage in properly, I need to use this Unicode option. So I'm just mentioning this because it was not clear, but if you look at the documentation, you can kind of figure this out. Uh, Except there is a problem. Even after doing this, when I come back to my Emacs window, it doesn't really work, right? And it doesn't really work because this window is inside WSL, and that uses something called WSLG graphics or GUI, I think. And that's a bit of a problem with almost all the software I'm going to mention after this. So the problem is things that work on the host need not work in the window, in the WSL window. So in this case, what has happened is if I actually try to set up and use the remapping for phi, it didn't work. So temporarily what I've done is phi alone is not remapped. So phi is just plain and shift phi is percentage. This is terrible, right? This is like a mess of a thing, like where my number row, 9 of the keys are inverted and this one key is not inverted. It's a bit crazy, but this is like I mentioned, this is round one. Maybe I figure out a way to fix this. So now I also want to mention AutoHotkey comes with something called Windows Spy, which is very nice. With this is basically like the XCV equivalent in X11 if you used it. So I just open that AutoHotkey Spy. This is the one. So basically, this will you can kind of hover your mouse cursor and you get details of class of the window and the program and so on. So if you want to do some automation with AutoHotkey or the other solutions, you can kind of use this information. That said, there is still a problem with, like I mentioned, with the WSL windows. So as an example, if I go back to my configuration, I have this simple thing picked from the documentation. So if you see, if I go to the documentation for AHK. So this is window set style, and basically there's a way to toggle the window title bar, right? So if I go back here, basically what you're saying is I'm going to remap hash here's for window key. So Windows T should run this command, which should toggle the title bar of the active window, right? In theory, that's great. So now if I take this window, for example, you see this title bar. So here, if I press Windows T, that bar, that title is gone. You see, right? It's gone. So I can press this a few times. It toggles on and off. But I'm doing this because I want to remove this title bar of this Emacs window, right? But that is not happening. So if I come here and I press Windows T, nothing, right? Absolutely nothing. So this is the problem with WSL windows, like I mentioned. Okay. So the next thing I want to mention is something known as Power Toys. I had to install this. I didn't really get a lot of value out of this, but I just thought I'll mention this in case it helps you. So you just open it, like there is a GUI, obviously. Uh, so there is basically a bunch of control, a bunch of interesting customizations. Like for instance, fancy zones is a way to create some kind of styling. There are other things like key management, key layout, and a lot of stuff really. I haven't really explored this fully. I think this will be useful, but I'm not using anything of this right now. But I'm sure you can get some value out of this whole bunch of things. Um, okay. So then let me come to the very last point of my list, which is the tiling window manager. So you see here my windows are already tiled. So for example, here, if I open one more window, you see it getting tiled. I can change the direction and open one more. So this is basically something called Glaze WM. So I'm using Glaze. So I first tried with Komorebi. So this is what came up recommended first when I searched for Windows Tiling Manager, but I couldn't get it working in the sense still the same problems with WSL windows, and I'm going to have at least this one Emacs window that I need to handle. But you can try it, but I couldn't, it really couldn't track the Emacs window, it couldn't manage it at all. So Glaze VM kind of worked out of the box. It is slightly better. It's still not complete. I still have a problem. So the tiling logic doesn't really work for the Windows, for the Emacs window. So this is like pretty much manually configured, right? I need to control the size like this. I really can't. Like I can switch between full and tiling, you see here, but it doesn't change the window size. I have to manually increase this and again, not great because uh, I mean this is normal expected behavior, right? But you see, even now I have some problems controlling this window size. It's not. Let me put this in float mode. Let's see if it's better. Okay, I'm able to move the size when I'm in floating, but then that's it, right? And then I need to work with this as a floating window. Not great again. But there is one more problem, which is if I typically open multiple Emacs frames. If you've seen my earlier videos, and I can't do that here because it has problems like it kind of confuses the two windows because they both are the same class or whatever, and it manages to mess it up. So for the moment, I'm just using one Emacs frame and just working with it in full screen mode. But of course, I mean, other windows are all good. Like you see here, tiling of other windows is great with the browser. So for example, I can open a new window, it tiles it properly. You can minimize windows like this and so on. So one of the negatives of this is though you have all the key bindings here, and they actually explain this. It's easy to remap Alt key on Windows. If you want to remap Windows key, this software doesn't do that for you. You can go back to auto hotkey. So if you see the auto hotkey configuration that I've been using, for example, here, this is overriding a Windows key. So this is a better way. So if you want to do something which you want to go via Windows key, this is the place to, you have to use auto hotkey. Uh, Komorebi is better in that sense because it has a client control your Windows. So you can basically configure those commands from your HK script and then get it working with Windows keys. So maybe you can try that. As far as I could see, the key management in this case is in Glaze is configured within by the software itself. So there's a YAML. If you see here, I'm just running Z so that I have editor on the host. So if I just full screen this or even uh, you can see this is the configuration of this glaze. Um, I have to do some extra things because of my number row flip. You see here, I have to add extra shifts. That is yet one more problem because this shift is fine, but then I'm not able to actually get my normal keys Alt 1 and on working. So what I've done is I've managed to use Control and Shift. So Alt 1, Alt 2 works seamlessly, and then I use the Control variant to move windows between workspaces. So Glaze also comes with a bar out of the box. So you see this thing on the top. It's not clear. If I go to an empty window, it's still not clear because Windows changes the background every day. I didn't account for that. This is called Z bar, but there's a configuration um, nice UI, and you can actually have a market. It has a marketplace of different bars. It's all clean. I didn't expect this clean software on Windows, but hey, what do I know? It's all clean. You can kind of download. You can try different widget packs. So I think I'm using one of these, which is like white, the white mode. So maybe all I have to do is basically go to the bar and see this. I can basically disable this. So I click this and so the bar is gone. You see the bar is gone on top. And I'll bring the other version of the bar. So I right click this and then I look at widget packs that I have. So this one is that simple one, index, run default. So this should give me a black bar. It's a bit clearer, still not great. Maybe I should be using some other bar, but you get the idea. So this is about Glaze and Z bar. Pretty decent. As you can see, I mean, out of the box, not bad, not bad at all. There's a lot more configuration here for automatic floating and things like that. You can take a look. But yeah, Glaze VM also breaks WSLG. Um I have to figure stuff out. So this is, I think, all that I add. You see this window is stuck. Let me get it back. Yeah, this is a problem I've been facing for the last few days. It does come back. I do something. I don't know what I do, but let me just minimize it and bring it back. Yeah, as you see, not the not the cleanest. So I just cycled through the various layouts and I got back control. But yeah, not great. But anyhow, this is what I wanted to show you in today's video. This is my round one after optimizing things. I will maybe have a follow-up video later, much later, because it's like this is the first 80%. Rest of kind of tweaking will take time and depends on how much I use this setup anyway. So let's see about that. In case I do get in a better state, I'll have a round two video with where I hopefully fix some of these issues. If you have been using this kind of setup on Windows, or if you have know of other softwares and tips that I should look at, let me know in the comments below. That's it for today's video. See you guys.